Hey, this is Kyle Crawford from Strong Dads. Strong Dads podcast would love to thank the Crimers Beer House for coming alongside of us. The Crimers Beer House was started in 1982 by the Crimer family, and since that time, they have definitely become a Cincinnati favorite. So if you're looking for an incredible meal in an incredible setting, definitely go down to Route 128 and check out the Crimers Beer House.
Welcome to Strong Dads. This is Merle Hutchinson, and welcome back from vacation, Kyle.
Now, Jenny would call it a trip. It wasn't a vacation. It was a trip.
But it wasn't quite a staycation, right?
It was not.
Like, you did a little something.
So Jenny says,
I think I might have even said on the show that you went to some warm climate or something.
Did you?
I think I might.
I didn't hear that if you did.
Okay.
You edited that out because it's not true. I went to Columbus, Ohio.
Oh,
but
Columbus, Ohio? That's beautiful.
But Jenny says if we sit around and do nothing, i.e. on a beach, that's a vacation. If we have an itinerary, that's a trip. So we went on a trip.
Thanks for the separation there and clarification.
Yeah. That's Jenny, that's very good. Structured. She has to have names and identity next to everything.
Okay, got it. So how was your trip?
It was very good. It was very good, yes. So we went up to Columbus just for the girls were on spring break. So we went up there and went to the Easton Mall. And they got the Legoland Discovery Zone, so that was fun. The Legos.
I'm so glad my kids are out of that stage.
You know what, Merle? Of all the things my girls were in, the Legos are one thing.
The Legos, you can go there, yeah.
So, yeah, I helped them build.
Isn't there like an American Doll?
There is. There's the American Girl Doll store.
Because you've got girls. Did you
do,
go?
yes. We went to that. It's never good when the dolls don't have price tags on them, Merle. These suckers are expensive. But little story. So the janitor's around there cleaning, right? And he comes up to me. He's like, sir. He's like, I see a lot of dads walk in here with their hands in their pockets just like you heads up, real proud of their girls looking. And he said by the time they go to the register and they cash out, their heads down and they're just sulking and their wallet's empty.
What did we just do?
These daggone dolls are, oh my goodness, are expensive. I mean, for like a little pack of 3 like luggage things, like $225.
What?
I'm like, for a doll?
Have you tried Walmart?
That's what I told Ava. I told her we could get her. We could pretty much buy out Walmart all their knockoff American Girl dolls for that price. Oh my
gosh! You know what? So our daughter, who's almost 17 now, when we adopted her, she was just coming out of the age of dolls, and so. I feel very fortunate now.
But I mean, apparently they're selling a lot of them because they got a whole store for this.
They
got a storefront. And
I don't get it. I'm sorry.
I don't either.
Sorry,
if any of you strong dads out there have ever bought an American Girl doll for your daughters, put a little comment in the YouTube page or reach out to us and we'll help you. We'll help you talk through.
We'll talk you off the cliff.
Good night.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you some free coaching sessions if you bought.
No, you should charge them double. If they can afford American Girl doll, they can afford twice the session.
Yeah, because you got PTSD now. You shake every time you see that little doll in the house.
Yeah, every time your daughter throws it across the room, you're like, oh, there's $200.
You walk by and you see a big rat's tail in her hair because your daughter's not taking care of the hair.
Anyways.
Okay, yeah.
How was your week? The show was very good. I'm a little disappointed Linda didn't sit in for me.
She was going to, and man, our schedule was just blowing up. And I was like, no, I got it. I'm good. I'm not even going to make it more complicated. So let's go ahead. And so it was a good chance for me just to, I don't know, I had some thoughts in my head. It's a good chance to get him out there.
It was good, yeah. For you guys out there who haven't checked out Merle, check it out from last week's show. Talked a lot about finding your passion and your purpose. So it was good.
Yeah, and through Christ, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that just sounds very cliche, like, all live in Christ and be in Christ. And, for me, that was not something that I just sort of took as words. Like, I've had to really figure out, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Why? Why would you even do that? Why do I even have to believe in Jesus? So anyway, I just kind of went through the process that I have gone through and continue to go through to figure out, like, why Jesus and not just a superior being and that kind of thing. So anyway, that's what that show is about. Go back, check it out, especially if you're a guy who's wrestling with your faith.
I love it. So what we got today? What we're going to do today?
So it's time that I think we go back and do a little bit of work on parenting. So we've talked a lot about a lot of other things. We've had our guest, we had Chris Burton and stuff on. So we've kind of gone out there in some different areas. But I actually feel like we need to ground ourselves back in the house a little bit and actually see what we're doing in the house as dads and in the parenting realm. Like, at the end of the day, what are your kids learning from you? How are you actually helping them to become the adults someday that you hope them to be? So I think we make a lot of assumptions in this department, like, oh yeah, I do this, I do that, in terms of an experience with the kids or disciplining the kids or whatever. But I feel like sometimes, and I'm included in this because I can talk all this stuff, but one of the things that we struggle with is we talk a lot of this stuff, but our schedule can get so busy that the next thing you know, we haven't had a dinner together in the last week. And we're pretty conscious about dinner time, but all of a sudden it's like, wow, we didn't eat dinner together at all this week. So what's going on? Well, in the meantime, you might not think that's a big deal, but then that means you're not getting nearly as many touches into your kids' world to see how they're actually doing. So your finger kind of falls off the pulse. So I feel like let's get back on the pulse a little bit.
Let's do it. Let's do a parenting check-in.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Before we get into that, let's thank our sponsors real quick. Strong Dads. We would like to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions for coming alongside of us. Check them out. We're if the weather would ever stop getting cold, we might be able to do some landscaping. But when it does get a little bit warmer, go up to Casey's Outdoor Solutions. Check them out. All your landscaping needs. Yeah,
if you're in the Midwest, it's been a slow progression to some warmth. Although I understand by the time you guys get to hear this show, we're supposed to be in the 70s.
I'm going back out of town this weekend, so I won't even get to enjoy it.
You back to Columbus?
No, Wellston, Ohio.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's exciting.
Oh, so exciting.
I don't even know where that one is.
I don't either.
Well, good luck there.
Yeah, thanks.
Also, we want to thank the Crimer's Beer House for supporting the work that we do here at Strong Dad. So we thank Mark Crimer and his gang down at the Crimer Beer House. So for a great meal and a great location, go down and check out Crimer's, located outside of Cleves, Ohio on Route 128.
Good deal.
All right. So... yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say you're talking because Merle's he's an author. He's writing an article for the local newspaper, right, or local magazine. Is that correct?
It's a monthly publication that's in our area. Yeah.
So and that's kind of where this all stemmed from. Some of your ideas. So
I write different. Lynn and I will write different things about parenting or marriage and stuff in there, and so this is kind of comes off of some of that work. But yeah.
I like it. Yeah. So teach me, Merle. I want to know. Let's do our check-in here. What do you got for us?
Well, I think the very first thing I really want to talk about, and this is an assumption that people make, and you can see it very clearly when it's a false assumption.
It happens when you assume, right?
Yeah. How do you spell that? We'll leave that to you. Yeah. And we make these assumptions that this part that we're going to cover first is taken care of, like duh. And the reality of it is if I actually watch you in your home, I may quickly see that, this is not actually the case. And that is parents are the leaders. They are the leaders. Parents are to lead, okay? And you might think that you lead, but if your children's if your children are arguing with you, if your children are constantly kicking back at you, if your children are not doing what you've asked them to do, all right, you're probably not the leader that you think you are. Because leading comes with a very strong but silent authority. And if you are telling your kids that, hey, this is my house, we're going to do things my way, you're not the leader. The whole idea that I have to say that and remind my kids of that lets me know that they don't really trust 100% that you're the leader. Okay? And so I just think that's important that we realize, well, what does that mean? Here's what your kids, and this is where we get into trouble. Your kids lack something that you have. And you didn't get what I'm getting ready to talk about because you intentionally tried to get it. You get it because you did life, and it's called wisdom. You have wisdom. So our youngest he thinks he knows it all. Okay, like he's just that kind of kid. Like he catches things quickly, and he's quick to think he's got all the answers. And if I'm not careful, his personality is very dominant.
Sure.
And he can quickly overrun you. Like, no, we're going to do it this way. We're going to do it that way. Like when you play football with him, he wants to be the guy who makes all the plays. And like, no.
Yep.
All right? Because he lacks this thing called wisdom. And wisdom is that thing that you and I have because we've already smacked our fingers with the hammer.
Yep.
We've already done the things and we went, oh, that didn't work well.
Yep.
And you can't just like wake up one day with wisdom. You have to. Wisdom is a practice of living and then going, how'd that work for me?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, this very idea of having that wisdom, man, in my world, in the fire service, this is huge. So this is where we always talk about having a senior guy in our firehouse, a guy who has been around, right? A guy who has seen enough fires to know different circumstances. When this happens, this is how we're going to respond to it. And I think, man, that this idea of wisdom is it's so needed in our world. We need people, we need dads to step up. We need parents to step up because whether you like it or not, you have lived a life that obviously your kids have not, so you've experienced things that you should be able to speak into that. And this is hard, as you were talking about your son. I think a lot of you guys out there, myself included, can relate to those times when our kids do try and overtake, and it's hard. It's a tough balance because at least in my home, I want my girls to express themselves and be able to speak what they're thinking, but then it's that balance of keeping them in check. So when Ava speaks out of line and she speaks to Jenny a certain way, and almost like tells Jenny what we're going to do, like it's hard because I need to be able to step into those situations, into those conversations and say, no, mommy and daddy are in charge here, right?
Yeah.
But at the same sense, because of who I am and I know my daughter, how I tell her that sometimes comes across a little crude and rude, right?
Yeah, that means everything, yeah.
Because I can step on it really, really quick, and I can be quick to stop the conversation, which I think needs to happen. But as I always tell her, it's not always what you say; it's the way in which you say it. And I think the same can be said about us. When we are intervening in those conversations, when we are intervening in our kids, when they are trying to overtake the house, I think there's a right and a wrong way to do it, and that's something that I'm quickly learning, especially with two very emotional girls.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it doesn't always land quite the way it would at the firehouse.
No,
right?
No, not at all. Yeah, because at the firehouse, the senior guy said, no, this is what we're going to do. Or my captain, which I was sharing a little bit before the show, I had to eat a little piece of humble pie. I'll be the first to admit. I spoke out of line, and I
just can't imagine you doing that.
I may or may not have told my boss, my captain, what we should have done, and that obviously didn't go over so well. So I had to eat a little humble pie, and I had to realize he has been on the job for 30-plus years. He knows why we did what we did, and it's hard because as the subordinates, right, as the child essentially in your home, I think I know what's best for the operation, and my captain obviously knows. He's been there, done that.
Yeah.
He has that wisdom that we're speaking of.
He sits with a slightly different view.
Yep.
Right?
He's in that position for a reason, I mean, so.
Yeah, and so don't underestimate that. So we encourage you guys, step up, be the leader. And the way we do that, leaders do not second guess themselves in the arena that they're working in. It doesn't mean that you don't second guess yourself after the fact because your captain could have been wrong, right? Like he could have made a mistake. So when it's all said and done, he needs to go back as a leader. I need to go back and I need to assess like, okay, that wasn't the best call. And then you make the appropriate changes that you may need to make. You don't do that again. Or maybe you need to apologize to your kids, all right? Maybe you apologize to your crew. Maybe your captain says, you know what, the more I thought about that, Kyle, you were right. This was what was on my mind. This is what I thought we were going to be doing, but it turned out you were thinking ahead of me on that one. Hey, that's the sign of a great leader, okay? And so as parents, we need to be able to do that. But when you're out there in the game, when it's happening now, no, you guys run and make the calls on how things go. You lead. I want to get to the second point on that, though. This is where things get really messy in the work that we do at Rock Solid. And this is where it gets messy in marriages, but it gets really messy when we've divorced or separated, okay? And that is you have to unite with your spouse. Guys, if you're listening out there, you and your spouse have to get on the same page when it comes to how you're going to run your home, how you're going to parent your kids. Did you hear what I said? You have to, because when you divide the leadership, okay, when you guys are supposed to be in a leadership position, when you divide the leadership, you automatically lose all credibility to who you're be lead to the people you're supposed to be leading, because now you can be manipulated, right? And now you have uncertainty between you. So whatever it takes, come together and strike unity between you and your spouse. That means sometimes that you have to compromise maybe how you might approach something, all right? And so, but it also means your spouse needs to compromise so that the two of you go, okay, you know what? So like, I can agree with that. Like, if that's how we're going to approach this, I can agree with that. Maybe it's chores around the house that you're going to have the kids do. Maybe it's the manners that you expect the kids to operate by, or their work ethic, or whatever it is. Come to a level of agreement, and at that time, both of you are like, nope, that's good. That's what we're going to hold to, and it's just so much easier at that point. I mean, it's so much easier because your kids get such a clear picture of, well, in our house, this is how we roll.
Yep. And although, this is obviously a show about, the parenting realm, I think this very idea of coming together and having, being parents that are united, I think this goes back to the marriage, right? Jenny and I are jumping into the parent, the class that you and Linda are doing.
Rock solid marriages.
Yeah. And, one thing that a lot we've gotten from is doing like these daily check-ins and these dailies, like, making sure that Jenny and I are on the same page, because naturally kids, especially of younger age, they are very selfish oriented, very selfish minded. And so they're going to do whatever it takes to try and get their way. And one of those ways kids can obviously do it is try and, drive a wedge in between, not intentionally, right? I don't think there's any kid that intentionally wants to see their parents fight, but it is a way in which they can divide a family very quickly, is to get the mom and dad to not agree on a lot of things. And I think having that marriage that's based together and doing those daily check-ins or doing those regular check-ins to make sure that you and your wife are on the same page, because if your value systems are different, man, that's going to be an easy wedge that our kids can really drive in.
And then eventually what happens is you start with a little bit of fighting between you and your spouse, but eventually you get tired of coming to a home that you fight, and so one of you not just gives in, you give up. There's a difference. Then you give up and you go, you know what, fine. You go ahead and take care of that with the kids. And you disengage. And I often see this more frequently with the men giving up because they don't want to go in their home and fight their wife. And so they just give up and they go, fine, you know what, you discipline the kids. Fine, you go ahead and do that. You take care of that. You take care of that. And that works in the very, very, very short term. In the short term, that creates a sense of like, okay, at least we're not fighting. But in the meantime, it creates a huge deficit in the running of the home, the credibility of the parenting. And then ultimately, mom starts to get choked out because she's finding herself carrying all of the discipline and running the home. And dad loses credibility in the kids' eyes because the kids are like, oh, yeah, like I don't ever ask him for anything. I just go to mom. Okay, and that's just an example. It could very easily go the other way, but being united is so important.
Well, take this next one. Obviously, you coming from the teaching world and the counseling and coaching world. Take this next one. What were some of your thoughts on this?
Man, if you can teach your kid one thing here about like, well, what is it going to take for them to be successful in life? And guys, just listen to me. Like, guys get wrapped up in the wrong direction so often on this. They start preaching the importance of you got to get a job that makes decent money. You got to be able to provide for yourself. You got to take care of yourself. And we think, you got to get to this college. You got to make these grades. And I'm not saying that there isn't a level of importance to that. But your biggest emphasis, if you want to give your kids a step up in life, teach them the best in social skills. Social skills, how to interact with people, how to be in a relationship, whether it's ultimately a marriage someday or how to hold your mouth with your boss, right? Like how to have good social skills. Social skills are what allow your kids to go out and ultimately have a fulfilled way of life with other people.
Yeah.
And, the only way that this doesn't come in handy is if you're going to go out and be a total recluse out in the mountains somewhere, which some days that might sound good, but that's not how life really goes. So the idea here, if you really want to help your kid, all the academics, all the sports, all that, I'm not going to say there's not a level of importance, but none of that is as important and is how you teach your kids to get along and interact well with manners and with the golden rule. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Like, let that be your driving emphasis all the time about how they interact with others. Yeah. And if your kids become strong and proficient at that, they'll learn certain things like negotiation skills at an appropriate level. They will learn empathy. All right, they will learn service. There's so many things when you learn good social skills that things start to get covered.
Yep, I love it too. I'm partially joking, but partially serious. I've been trying to teach my girls how to shake a hand. Oh. like a real handshake, right?
Like a man shake?
Yeah, and I got my youngest to shake a hand, and she puts the second hand over top. I tell her that means you mean business, right? Well, what?
I love it. But doesn't matter like how you grab the second hand?
I say thumb pitch to thumb pitch. You always got it, it got it easy, right? But the other day we were at a friend's house, and someone I had never met came in, and I shook his hand, and he made a point. He stopped, and obviously he doesn't know that I'm trying to talk to my girls, and he's like, now that boy's got a handshake right there. And
I will give you that. You got a heck of a handshake.
And I told Ava, I told my girls, it was just like, it doesn't, in the grand scheme of things, right? Will that guy remember me? No, probably not. But
he's wearing a cast today. He's got a broken hand.
But by that initial, my first impression that I made on him, he maybe, when I speak, he maybe will listen a little bit because, and again, not putting too much emphasis on a handshake, but in my world, as in the fire world, like, your handshake is your first impression you make for a lot of people, and it means something. And I tell the girls all the time, like, you look at someone in their eyes, like when you shake their hand, you look them in the eye, let them know you're ready to engage in the conversation. And I think there's a lot of value in that. When my girls go for a job one day, right? Hopefully they're going to shake the person who's giving the interview, or they're going to shake their hand, and they're going to let them know, I mean business. I'm here for a job, right?
Yeah,
and I think
I'm carrying some confidence.
Absolutely,
right? I'm reassured.
I think that probably is being able to carry yourself with a little bit of confidence, because especially when it comes to trying to get a job, hopefully in the future, like having the ability to have self-confidence in who you are and what you can provide, that goes a long way.
Yeah, it does. So these social skills, guys, do not underestimate them. And here's a huge takeaway. Stop thinking that the school should be teaching the social skills. All right, I'm just going to say, give me a break, right? Like, I spent 20 years at the elementary level, and it became a huge part of my job. Now, I didn't mind teaching it because, like, it was easy, all right? But the idea that I had to teach social skills, think about that for a second, how ridiculous that is. That I had to spend an hour out of your kid's day and teaching them things, everything from a handshake to just interaction and problem solving. Like, that is a home. That is so easily taught in a home because it can be so regular. So please your school should reinforce what you're teaching, but they should not be the teacher of the social skills that your kids need to succeed.
Well, that just made me think. One thing I remember my mom always, even though she didn't actually like intentionally teach us, anytime we walked into the room, whatever she was doing, she would stop to engage with us. And I think the same, this is something I'm terrible at, is this phone here. My girls start speaking and I have my eyes here. I think that's we can teach our kids so much about social skills that when someone's engaging in a conversation, to stop whatever you're doing and actually, again, look in their eyes and actually engage in that conversation versus all the distractions we have in this world.
Man, that is for sure. That actually goes to our next little category here. Parents have to model. You have to model what you desire for your kids, all right? And so you've heard the phrase, more is caught than taught. Your kids are watching everything you do.
Good.
They're watching everything, good, bad, ugly, all of it, all right? Especially like when you're at your kids' ages right now, they're watching everything.
Everything.
Right? Because they're trying to see they're desiring to be a little bit older, but they know they're still kids. And so when they go out to a restaurant or they go out, they're like, well, what's mom doing? Well, what's dad doing? Okay, then this is what I'll do. And so they're watching everything. But this is the devastation that happens. So you spend all day long preaching about getting your face out of the screen, and you kids shouldn't do that, and here's how you should do it. And then you go ahead and you do that. You lose all credibility. You lose, and the sorry thing is you lose the credibility on that particular topic, but you lose credibility throughout.
Yeah.
Like, Dad, I can't trust you. Okay. And I'm not, trying to exaggerate that. I'm telling you that that's what happens by the time, if you have a consistent basis of preaching one thing and acting something different, your kids just look at you when you're talking and go, oh, yeah, sure, right, whatever. All right. And it really shows up in the teenage years when they become rebellious because they're seeing all the hypocrisy in you. So whatever it is, whatever those values are that you and your wife agreed on, then you've got to incorporate that in your own lifestyle.
Yeah, I feel convicted now, Merle. I talked to one of the guys I work, and we always say we're just dumb firemen, right? and I was just talking on the phone with him, and I apparently I said it. Apparently I was like, yeah, we're just dumb firemen. We don't know what we're talking about, right? and what we're right around dinner time, and Ava's like, yeah. Because whatever the topic of conversation, we tell our girls not to make fun of themselves because it allows other people, to engage in that type of behavior as well. And Ava's like, well, you called yourself a dumb fireman, and so it's just that very idea of which is hard because man, they're listening and watching what you do at all times, and I'm never gonna be 100% all the time. So I think that's just the idea of coming back and just trying to reiterate and trying to live out what I want my girls to accomplish and in the way in which I want them to experience life. But it's hard, man. That's just the idea of modeling because the kids are like sponges, man. They pick up on everything. So, Merle, as we, kind of dive into this next one, this is something I think it almost touches in on the second point of being united. Man, when it comes to this idea of disciplining our kids, I think this is something, consistency is going to be big. This is something where you and your wife can't have different ideas and different values when it comes to this very idea of discipline. So, man, when you and Linda were raising your two older boys, what were some of the takeaways as far as obviously seeking wisdom from someone who's been there and done that? Like what type of discipline? Because I know you spoke about your two older boys. They were like they were right. You didn't.
They were good kids, so they made it extremely easy, and we've come to realize that more and more. Here's one of the gifts that Linda and I have always had in our marriage. And so I'm not underestimating the value of this. I'm actually, celebrating the value of this. Because Linda and I were on the same page with the values and the discipline and even the methods of discipline, it made so much of that so much easier. Like, we did not argue and bicker at each other about the whole idea of discipline. So we just came, because we were both disciplined in a very similar way, the way we were brought up. So I think a lot of it just was like second nature. So that is not to be underestimated. But Lynn and I were very connected in, well, this is what we stand for in our house. This is how we roll. Excuse me. So that right there made it so much easier. After that, then it became a consistency thing. All right. Now, Linda's more consistent in terms of, especially like the daily stuff around the house.
Okay.
Whether it's the cleaning of the room, whatever. She's more consistent in seeing like, oh, that needs to be done. And she will stay, on the kids in those situations. I am more consistent in not bringing my emotion into it. Meaning like if the kids just broke something or did something, like I won't lose my mind. Right, when she'll get a little bit more emotional on that and find herself into that emotional, like I want to yell, and that's not more my nature. So that's where we start to balance each other. Yeah. Right. So she's picking up a lot of the daily little stuff. I'm like, okay, let me handle this part. The kid just caught the woods on fire, and it's kind of a big deal, and which is a real story, and so. But handling those things and balancing with each other is important. But here's what I kind of want to get to with some of the discipline. This is a pendulum that keeps swinging. Back in the 50s and 60s and even early 70s, it was just every parent group was basically parenting along the same lines.
Sure.
So schools kind of always made assumptions like, well, this is how we should discipline kids because this is how it's happening at home. So it was a very social norm that was accepted. And when we came into the 70s and then into the 80s, everybody started questioning how kids were going to be disciplined. And everything that you did, well, I don't know, that could hurt your kid. Well, that's going to leave a scar. And so you write books on this stuff, you start speaking on this stuff, and people start to question themselves. Mm-hmm. And so there was this destructive erosion that started to take place in the parents questioning how to discipline or whether to discipline at all in some of these cases. And so the pendulum has swung all the way to the point of kids have rights, they have freedoms, they should be able to express their ways, they should be able to get their way. And the experiment's been real, and it's been real disastrous, right? And because now I actually do see the pendulum swinging back because now everyone is complaining about lazy kids, entitled kids. And again, and I don't want to generalize that too much because, listen, I know, and my boys themselves, I would never consider them lazy or anything like that. They are on top of it, okay? But by and large, the population is very undisciplined. And so you see the need now. Parents are starting to create a lot more structure in the home. They're starting to hold their kids to a different level of being accountable. So you're seeing this. Do not underestimate. You have to discipline your kids because we discipline now so that our kids will learn to self-discipline. And self-discipline, self-control are some of the greatest measures of people's success in life.
Mm. Love it. Yeah. So as we kind of dive into this last one, this is to me, this is kind of like a culmination of all of them. This is something, man. If we as strong dads can wrap our mind around this and begin to incorporate this into our parenting skills and what the message we want to get to our kids, you're going to find yourself in the minority for sure. Because this idea of servanthood and this idea of serving other people, and this idea of teaching our kids to serve is not something that society is really good at, if you haven't noticed, right? It's a lot of self-seeking, whatever's best for me right now. So I think if we can get this idea of beginning to, this idea of teaching our kids to serve other people, because if the whole goal in all this is to bring our kids up and try and have a faith-based home, if our depiction of that is going to be Christ, no better depiction of what a servant leader looked like, what someone who actually went out and served looks like. This is something Jenny is really, really good at this. Jenny will go out and she will do a lot of service projects with the girls, and I love watching it. It's something we do in our home. We have a lot of groups come and we'll serve them dinner and we'll feed them in our house. And Ava's joining in now. Ava's helping me cook dinner for these these leaders that are coming in that are doing high school ministry, and it's really cool to see the girls kind of dive into this and realize the importance and the significance that doing that for other people, and the way in which we can share love to people, the way in which we can share our resources with people, I think is something that I know for sure our girls are picking up on. And the hope is, obviously, again, they're going to look different than the world, because the world's always going to tell them that serving other people first is not the way to go. And the hope is, by teaching, instilling these type of disciplines, that the girls will be, when they hear that from the world, they'll be able to take a step back and say, well, that's not what we do in our house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's goes back to some of what I talked about in the show last week, like, well, why Jesus? And in a nutshell, his scripture about I did not come to be served, but to serve. Yep. And so if you think about that, if you're on an island by yourself and there's nobody else around, then self-service is the only way to go because it's survival. You got to do everything. You got to take care of yourself. But you bring one other person on that island, and now the two of you, if you are just in the self-service, you will destroy each other, okay? And so now the two of you are like, hey, you take care of this, and I'll take care of this. Now you actually have the chance to have a little extra energy left over, and you can begin to build a population, all right? And so if you want to see a population build and grow, you have to be in service to others. You and I would both lose our jobs if we were not serving others. You know, you have to serve others. And so at the age of 2, your kid feels like he's on an island and he is all about himself. There's an awakening. That's what we call them, the terrible twos. And that is when parenting kicks in. All right. Before then, it was called nurturing.
Yeah.
All right. Before then, it was nurturing. But at this point, it's actually parenting. And parenting is when you go, okay, we're going to move from being the served to being the servant. Right. And we're going to teach this. And again, in a very respectful and loving way. But the idea here, at the age of 2, we're going to start to say to our little one, okay, buddy, let's come over here. Help me clean up your toys. And then you're going to switch. You're going to say, I will help you clean up some of your toys. And then you're going to say, hey, I'm cleaning up the kitchen. You go clean up your toys.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to progress through that because that is allowing the house to survive, all right, versus just your child.
Yep.
And so this is an ongoing process. If you want to give your kids a huge gift in this way, teach them how to serve others and why we serve others.
Yep. You know, obviously we're on the back end of Easter weekend, and I saw something that I've never thought of before. If you take a look at the scripture, obviously Jesus knew he was going to be put to death, right? And if you were to reverse those roles and put yourself in his shoes, so someone is telling you you're going to be put to death, and you have a day to live, what would you do with that day? And a lot of people be like, I would, check off all my bucket list, right? But what did Jesus do? He spent the time and he washed the feet of his disciples. He was serving his disciples in a time when he knew he was going to be put to death. Like, how crazy is that to think, again, what a depiction of what servant leadership actually looks like. He is the best example of that.
Yeah, constantly the idea of, oh, man, I have to impart a message. I have to give them everything that I can give them so that they can live the best life possible for not just tomorrow, but for the next generation, So I think that's just these are huge gifts that we give to our kids, and holding these things back actually sets our kids up for failure and strife down the road. So I'm choking out here.
You're choking out. You're just so excited about it.
Yeah, I'm so excited about it. So anyway, guys, hopefully this stuff is a great reminder. Hopefully it's not anything new, because if it's something new, you need to come see me at Rock Solid Families, okay?
That's good.
So we can do it. Yeah, I like the way we work that right in. You need to come and see us. So anything that we can help you with, feel free to reach out at rocksolidfamilies.org. Anything that in your marriage, strengthening at your marriage, or just an individual work and coaching, let us know. See what we can do to help you, to get you on track. Everybody wins when your family is winning. So let's see what we can do to help out.
I like it. Yep, man. I hope you guys are out there having a good week. Man, I hope this show does hit home. Guys, if you're out there and there's a topic that you want Merle and I to attempt to tackle, even if we've discussed it before, but there's a different way in which you want us to do, reach out to us, man. We're always looking for new things to talk about that guys, men, dads are struggling with, things that we're going through. So, man, reach out. We would love to try and tackle some of these topics with you, alongside of you. So reach out. I know obviously Merle's got the email at hutch@rocksolidfamilies.org. Reach out to the comment section on the YouTube page. We would love to see what we can do with those topics.
Yeah, we're all work in progress. So, I think as you said, you had to eat a little humble pie this week, and that's part of all of our walk, learning to say, oh man, I need a little help here.
Yep.
So that's a good thing to do. So we want to thank our sponsors.
Yep.
We want to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions and the Crimer Beer House for coming alongside and being supporters of the work that we do here. We want to thank all you guys that are out there listening and continuing to work to be the dad, the husband that we need you to be. All right. So we want to thank you guys. Do us a favor. Give us a 5-star rating. Share the show. All right. Let's keep growing the show, because it's really growing the message that we need to see the pendulum in a lot of these areas. We need to swing it back to a greater position of health.
Love it. Yeah, hope you guys keep sharing the heck out of the show and go out there and be some strong dads.
Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Casey's offers a wide selection of plants, landscaping materials, home and garden decor, and gifts for every occasion. Casey's is committed to providing exceptional service, a unique shopping experience, and value to every customer. Stop in and see what makes Casey's so unique. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, or call 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home.